The dust swirled around Akin's feet as he walked. He walked with his head down. Shame and despair filled his heart. Beside him, Emaneka walked with equal despair. They were going to the Anulu River. It was the only place left to seek solace. For years they had longed for a child. Every moon that passed brought fresh heartache. The whispers in the village grew louder. They were cursed, they said. The Anulu River flowed like a silver serpent through the heart of Naji village. It held the spirit of their ancestors. It was the dwelling place of the water goddess. Only she could answer their prayers now. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they reached the riverbank. With heavy hearts, they knelt. Tears streamed down Maneka's face as Ekene began their prayer. They pleaded for a child, a miracle. The moon bathed the river in its silvery light. The air hung heavy with the scent of water lilies. Ekene and Emaneka poured out their hearts to the water goddess. They promised to raise their child with respect for the river and all its creatures. The Anulu River, usually calm and serene, seemed to stir. Ripples spread across its surface. The reflection of the moon danced and shimmered. Suddenly, the river glowed. A luminescence emanated from its depths. Ekene and Maneka watched in awe and trepidation. The glow intensified, forming a swirling vortex of light. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the light faded. The river was still. Silence descended upon them. They returned home, their hearts filled with a cautious hope. 9 moons later, Machi was born. Her arrival was greeted with joy and relief, but there was something different about Machi. Her eyes, unlike any seen before in Naji village, were the color of the deepest river pool. They shone with an unearthly light. As Amachi grew, so did her affinity for the river. She was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. She would spend hours sitting by its edge, her tiny hand trailing in the water. The villagers whispered. They said the river had blessed Machi. They called her the river child, a child touched by the divine. 12 rainy seasons had passed since Amachi's birth. It was her 12th birthday, a significant milestone in Inaji village. On this day, she would perform the traditional ritual of gratitude to the river goddess. Dressed in white, she walked towards the Anulu River. Villagers lined the path, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and reverence. As Machi reached the riverbank, a strange silence fell upon the village. The air crackled with anticipation. She stepped into the water. The river, normally murky brown, shimmered and glowed. Fish, their scales gleaming like jewels, swam around her. They formed a swirling circle, their movements almost hypnotic. Machi raised her hand in farewell and smiled. Then she vanished beneath the surface. Section 5. Years of silence. Panic gripped the village. People surged towards the river, their cries of Machi, Mamachi echoing through the air. Ekene and Emaneka were devastated. They searched tirelessly for their daughter, but the river had swallowed her whole. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. The villagers whispered that the water goddess had claimed Machi as her own. The annual ritual of gratitude continued, but it was now tinged with sorrow. Each year, on Machi's birthday, the villagers would gather by the Anulu River. They would leave offerings of fruit, flowers, and handmade trinkets. They prayed for her safe return, but the river remained silent. 12 long years had passed since Machi's disappearance. The villagers gathered by the river for the annual ritual. The air was thick with the scent of rain and lilies. As the sun began its descent, a hush fell over the crowd. A figure emerged from the river. Tall and radiant, she seemed to glow with an inner light. Her eyes, still the color of the deepest river pool, held a wisdom far beyond her years. She wore a gown of woven river reeds, adorned with shimmering fish scales. It was Machi, but transformed. She was no longer the girl they once knew. She was the river child reborn. A collective gasp arose from the villagers. They trembled, unsure whether to be afraid or overjoyed. Machi, her voice like the gentle murmur of the river, spoke. "Fear not," she said, her words carrying across the water. "I have returned, blessed by the water goddess, to bring prosperity to our village." And so she did. With a touch of her hand, she healed the sick. She whispered to the crops, and they flourished. She sang to the river, and it teemed with fish. For weeks she shared the blessings bestowed upon her by the water goddess. The village of Naji had never known such abundance. As quickly as she had returned, it was time for Machi to go. She stood at the water's edge, her reflection shimmering in the moonlight. "The water goddess calls me back," she announced, "but I will return." With a sad smile, she stepped into the river. The water glowed, and fish with scales like jewels danced around her. Then, as the villagers watched, she disappeared into the mist that rose from the Anulu River. Life in Naji village was forever changed. The villagers whispered her name with reverence. Machi, the river child, had returned to the embrace of the water goddess, but she had left behind a legacy of hope and prosperity. And so, the legend of Machi, the river child of Naji, is passed down through generations, a reminder of the power of faith, the mystery of the river, and the enduring love between a mother and her child. They wait for the day she will return, their hearts filled with hope, for they know that Machi, the river child of Naji, shall return again.